Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Shootproof Spotlight webinar with Liz Hansen. I'm sure many of you have seen her before. And this week she is talking all about mastering boudoir lighting. And I was going through her slides with her before. This is really great for all sorts of studio lighting. So we're very excited for you to be here, Liz. Thank you for joining us.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Before we get started, I wanted to cover a few housekeeping items. So please close any extra browser tabs or streaming services. Sometimes the audio and video can get a little bit funny. If you need to jump off for any reason, you'll get a recording of the webinar after the end of the webinar, and it'll be sent to you by email. If you look over to the right-hand side next to the chat, you'll see a Q&A tab. So if you have any questions for Liz, drop those questions in there and we'll actually answer them at the end of the webinar. We find that things get a little mixed up when we're kind of stopping and answering questions. So you'll also get a survey after the webinar is over. Please fill that out and let us know how we're doing, what other topics you'd like to learn about. And finally, let's do some introductions. I'm Kelly. I'm with the Customer Learning team here at Shootproof. We have Karen and Darby in the chat today. And then, of course, we have Liz. So please introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know if you're already doing boudoir, or if not, what type of photography you're doing. And I will jump off here and let Liz take over. So thanks so much. We'll see you at the end.
I am so excited to be here. Thanks for having me. Some people in the chat are saying that they can't hear, but I assume that someone on Shootproof's end will make sure that everyone can hear. I'm here today to talk about boudoir lighting, and like was mentioned in the intro, this is great for anyone, any kind of photography that you are doing. I'm Liz, and I am in freezing Chicago, Illinois. It's like 40 below. I run the Chicago Boudoir Photography Studio, and what I do is a Victoria's Secret style photo shoot experience for the everyday woman. And I'm excited today to share with you the way that I light my subjects for boudoir. I also run something called the $1 Million Studio, which is an education platform to help you reach your business goals. I run my studio at $1 million per year in revenue, and I believe that you can too. So let's today talk about 3 types of light: natural light, bounced light, and using a strip box. There's a lot of different kinds of light that you can use in this world, but these are the 3 that I am going to show you today that I use for every single photo shoot that I do at my studio. Please leave comments or questions in the chat and I will get to them. Okay. So natural light, bounced light, and strip box. We're going to start with natural light. Most of you probably know how to shoot with natural light or window light, okay? This is where I'm going to start because it's where most of us started. For a long time, I shot only natural light. And a lot of you might also only shoot natural light. You can create beautiful images with natural light and window light. I'd love to hear from you in the comments if you are a natural light shooter, if that's what you love to do. What you can see in the screen share here are pictures of me shooting by the window that I have in my studio. So I have a small boudoir boutique studio here in Chicago. It's got one big window at the front, and you can see me shooting some pictures with boudoir clients here by that big natural window light. Okay. Let me show you what those pictures look like that I create by my window. Okay. You can see here 4 pictures with people standing by the window. These are images, boudoir images created with just the window light coming through those windows, okay? Now, if you stand close to the window, you're gonna get that light, bright, airy look. You can see in these pictures how the backdrop is just almost blown out with those white curtains and you're just seeing white light come through. Of course, if you step away from the window a little bit, you can get a darker look. So these pictures that you see on the screen here are also shot just with window light. I have just stepped further away from the window. So the light is darker, and I've also put my subject against a black backdrop. So I'm getting that darker, moodier look, but this is still natural light. So I want you to know that with boudoir, you can shoot light and airy or dark and moody with just window light and get beautiful images either way. Let's talk about the camera settings, okay? In my studio on a sunny day, for natural window light, I can shoot with a shutter speed of about 1/125. I'm not dealing with toddlers running around or dogs jumping up and down or movement like that. So I'm not having to shoot at a super high shutter speed to capture motion. So when I'm shooting window light, it's almost always at 1/125. My f-stop in those pictures was about f5.6 and my ISO at 200. Now, because this is window light, if it's not a sunny day and instead it's a cloudy day, I get less light coming through that window. So I'm going to shoot, all I'm going to do is bump up my ISO a little bit. On this example here, I've also taken the f-stop down to 4.5, but typically if I want my picture darker, I'm turning my ISO down. If I want it brighter, I'm turning it up to a higher number. So these are the exact camera settings that I use to shoot with my window light for Boudoir. Okay. Now, again, I'm just showing you two separate pictures here. These are two pictures that I took of the same gal by the same window with the same amount of sunshine. The only change you're going to see here is from ISO 100 to ISO 800. So on the left, you can see it's dark, it's shadowy, you can barely see the gal. But you know what? It's art. If this is what you want for your boudoir, go for it. A lot of people shoot window light, dark and moody boudoir, and you can do that too. On the right is my more kind of preferred look where I've bumped up the ISO to 800 to get more of a light and bright and more well-lit look for her. Okay. So just know that with one window, with the sun shining or even on a cloudy day, you can create beautiful, beautiful boudoir images. Bring your client close to the window for light and airy, further away for dark and moody, or play with your ISO to turn the light up or down for your photos. Okay. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on natural light because I think that's what most of you are probably most familiar with. So let's move to lighting setup number 2, which is bounced light. Now, if you have never used a studio light and you're a little intimidated by studio lights, I completely understand. For a long time, I was a little bit scared to use studio lights, a little bit scared to introduce that into my repertoire. But I'm here to tell you that it's actually quite simple and I can show you exactly how I do it. So my favorite way to use studio light is to bounce the light. And what that means is that I point the light towards a white wall, a white ceiling, or a white curtain on my window, and then the light bounces back. And what that means is that instead of getting a harsh, direct flash look, when it bounces and comes back at you, it's like a giant softbox. And you're going to get this beautiful, even, full bounced light. So in these 3 pictures here, you can see me using bounced light. Over here, you can see I've bounced the light into the white curtains of the window, and then it's going to bounce back and hit this gal here as if it were a giant window. So even at night, I can point this towards my window and it's as if the sun is shining through my window. Okay. Here I have this pointed straight up at the ceiling, if you can see that, so that I'm shooting and that light is bouncing off the white ceiling and coming down and lighting my subject who happens to be lying down on the floor. And then over on the right, you can't quite see it because it's out of the frame, but this light is bouncing towards a white wall that I have over there. So it's bouncing towards a white wall and coming back to this gal who's at the white bed and creating beautiful, even bounce light. Let me show you what it looks like in a photo. Oh, first off, this is bounce light. When you buy a light, by the way, these are alien beads from Einstein. I'm not like a rep for them or anything. They're just the ones I happen to have. They're cheap. They work great for me, but any studio light company that you want to buy from is going to work great. It just depends on your price point. On the left, you can see what just a standard studio light looks like. And then on the right, it's with what they call a beauty dish. And the beauty dish, when you throw that onto the studio light, is what's going to give that beautiful bounce. So you don't need anything special. The studio light comes looking just like this out of the package. You just turn it on and bounce it towards something, and that's the look you're going to get. Let me show you what it looks like. On the left, do you see how there are just really no shadows? There's nothing shadowy about this picture. It is fully lit. The backdrop is lit. Her face is lit. The sheet is lit. Her legs are lit. That is from a bounced light. Okay. So that is how you're getting that really even, really beautiful look, is from a bounced light. Okay. If you like this look, great. You can use a bounce light. If you don't like it, don't do it. I'm not here to tell you what to do. Over here on the right, it's the same. This is a bounce light. This is, I don't know if you remember from back here. Okay. So see this backdrop right here where that gal is sitting. You can see the bounce light. Here is bouncing the light off that floral backdrop. It's a different one, but it's in that same spot. So that is what bounced light is going to look like here as well. If you could zoom in, which you can't on this webinar, but you could see in her eyes and in her eyes here, you could see the light. You can actually see me with my little camera and the little light stand and the light bouncing to get this beautiful even light across her body. Notice how there's no shadow under her chin. Notice how this strap is lit just as well as this strap. Notice how her hair is fully lit. Okay, over here, notice how there's no shadows, okay? So if you want that very even, very well lit, very kind of, I call it airy look, this is achievable with a bounced light. All right, what do those settings look like? Shutter speed is still at 1/125. I shoot almost everything at 1/125, no matter what I'm doing. By the way, you never want to go faster on your shutter than 1/125 with a studio light, unless you have a special high sync flash. I never use it. That's for like fancy pants people doing fast movement kind of stuff. My boudoir subjects, they don't move around super fast, so they're just lying still. So with bounced light, with a studio light, you're always going to want to use 1/125. If you go faster than that with a studio light, you're going to get like weird black bars on the sides of your images where the shutter couldn't keep up with the flash. So troubleshoot that if you're using studio lights for the first time and you have a really fast shutter. That's why you're getting those black bars on your picture. I'm using an f5.6 and ISO 100. The great thing about using studio lights is that even at night, even on a super cloudy day where there's no sunshine, I can still shoot at ISO 100 and get no grain, right? I live in Chicago. In the winter, we get like no sunshine, right? I can't rely on the sun. I sometimes want to shoot in the evening and at night. So studio lights allow me to get beautiful light at any time of day, not relying on the sun. I typically keep my light at 1/2 power for these kinds of pictures. Now, what you're going to realize on any studio light that you buy is that you're able to turn the power up and down. So you have to realize that in addition to your camera settings, you're going to also need to pay attention to how high or low your light is set at. Okay. So if it was, I'm taking a picture and I like how it's sort of looking, but I want it to look a little brighter, instead of jacking up my ISO, I can just turn the studio light up. Okay. So that is something to keep in mind. Full power on most studio lights is pretty strong and pretty intense, and you're going to get some really bright light because the studio lights are meant to, light up a lot of things. So 1/2 power is usually where I start. Different brands are going to have different amounts of power. So you're going to have to play with that a little bit. Okay. So let me show you some examples. Both of these pictures were taken at 1/125, f5.6, and ISO 100. On the left, that was taken with just window light. Okay, so you're seeing the window light coming into my studio and hitting her body and the sheets and the backdrop, and that's what it looks like. Okay, if you like that, great, stick with that. But on the right, I have introduced one bounced light. Settings have stayed the same, but I've introduced a bounced light. What I like about the image on the right is that instead of kind of getting these muddy shadows in the back on this headboard, so this headboard is white and the lace is white, but it reads kind of gray and muddy because the natural light is not lighting it up that much. Over here on the right, I get much more white tones. Do you see that, the difference there? So it gives to me like a cleaner look. So the headboard looks white, the pillows look white, and they are white, but with the bounce light, they get lit, okay? The sheet is white. Her skin looks more even. Here you're getting more shadow in her hair and more shadow over here. Again, there's no right or wrong with photography. It's what the art that you want to create. But if you are looking to get that cleaner white look, you can get that with one bounced light. Okay, here's a second example. On the left, this is what, so the settings were the same for this picture, 1/125, f5.6, ISO 100. Same settings for this picture, different gal. On the left, you're going to see the image that I created with just daylight, okay? So that's the window light coming into my studio. What you'll notice here, what I notice here at least, is dark circles under her eyes and some darkness again here The sheets are looking kind of gray and muddy. Her skin tone, to me, could use a little more light. Now, again, if you like this dark and moody look, go for it. But on the right, what you're seeing when I add the bounced light, the shadows under her eyes are eliminated and everything is just more fully lit. By the way, these images are not retouched. I put the raws up here so you could see exactly what it looks like as raws. These ones are raws as well, just so you can get an idea. This is exactly what it's looking like out of camera with one bounce light. And this is exactly what it's looking like out of camera with one bounce light as well. I have found that using a bounce light for boudoir really reduces the amount of retouching that I have to do. So on an image like this on the left, I would be in here retouching under the eyes, maybe trying to brighten up the eyes a little bit so it wasn't so raccoony. But over here on the right, like she's already looking great. I've got a nice catch light in the eyes. And I shot this at night in my studio, but it looks light and bright. So that's why I like to add a bounce light to a lot of my pictures. Okay. Another thing you can do with bounce light is add more than one light. So in the back corners of my studio, I sometimes need to bounce 2 lights instead of just 1. Here's the thing about studio lights. Most of them, in fact, I think all of them, when one studio light goes off, the other one will go off automatically too. They have like sensors in them, right? So all I got to do is I've got a trigger on my camera, which tells the studio lights to go off when I press the shutter. And then when one of them goes off, the other one is going to go off simultaneously. So this is really cool. Once you get good with one light, you can just add as many lights as you want and they will all turn off at the same time. Sometimes you have to tell your lights which is the primary and which is the secondary so it knows which light to obey, but it's super easy to set up. Let me show you what this does when you add a second light. On the left here, this is what the picture would have looked, what the picture looks like in daylight. 1/125, 5.6, ISO 100, same settings. This is what was coming in from my window that day. Super dark. This isn't, we're not even talking dark and moody here. We're just talking like so underexposed that you can't even see anything, right? Then this next picture here, this is what she looked like with one bounce light. As you can see, this side of her face is pretty well lit, but her hair and this side of her face is really dark. Again, if you like that look, no problem. But I wanted both sides of her face more well lit. So I brought a second light in, bounced it, told the lights to fire at the same time. And then you see that what I get with 2 lights here, her hair lit up on the side here, both of her eyes lit, both sides of her face lit. So introducing a second light can be helpful if you need to. Of course, you're going to master one, but then if you want to add a second, you can just bounce another light and it's just going to create even more light, reduce the shadows. Okay. So I am not able to see any questions coming in at this point. Let me just see if I can. Okay, here's one. Do you use a lower aperture too for more blurry background? Yes, you always can lower your aperture if you want to have a blurrier background. Of course, when you lower your aperture, that's going to open more light as well, so your picture will get lighter. Jenny says, I want a moody edit, but more fill light. Would a bounce at lower power work? Yes, absolutely. So if you're bouncing the light, but it's too bright, lower it down and you will get different results. You can absolutely get a dark and moody look still with bounced light. So imagine you are in a studio with no window light at all. In fact, if you turn off the overhead lights and shut the door, you'd literally be in a black box. If you use bounced light, but turn your settings down, turn your light down, you can still create that moody look in there that you want, but with the bounced light as well. So it's going to have to do with turning your light up and down and turning your ISO and settings up and down as well. Okay, where am I pointing my bounced light? Okay, let me go back just real quick before we go into, I just want to answer some of these questions about bounce light before I move into the next one. So let me show you, for example, in this situation right here, I am standing, if you can imagine, I'm standing in front of this gal taking the picture. On the left, there's no light, but there is a window behind me coming, lighting some of her, okay? On the right, I'm still standing in front of her, but I have a bounced light to the side of her that is pointed towards a white wall that's bouncing back at her. This is a little hard for me to explain here with my hands. I do want to let you know that if you wait till the end of the webinar, I'm going to have a QR code for you where you can see videos of me doing all of these things as well. So if my explanations with my hands about where the lights are is not sufficient for you, I do have a link for you for videos of me doing all this as well that you can watch on your own time. Okay, someone's asking where I place the second light. Okay, so right here, again, I'm standing in front of the client. In this case, can you see the bounce light is kind of behind her and lighting up this part of her face in the bed? When I decided I wanted to light more of her here, I'm bringing a light over to the other side and bouncing it so that it hits there. So what you always need to think about, imagine, so light is actually like a thing that like goes out from the studio light, hits a wall or ceiling and comes back. I mean, I don't know if it's waves or energy. I'm not a physicist, but when you look at your light, you can literally imagine it coming out and bouncing, and that bounce where it comes back. So light always behaves the same way. It goes and it bounces in the same way. So if you want to light up this side of her face, you just need to bounce the light so that it comes back and hits her. Does that make sense? Okay. What focal length lens do you typically use? I use a zoom lens 24-70 for all of my boudoir photography. I like to have the flexibility of the zoom so that I can get a wide shot and a narrow shot. So I'm anywhere between 24 and 70 for all of my boudoir. Am I on a ladder for overhead shots? Absolutely, I am. Okay, I think I answered the natural and bounced light questions for now. But there's so many more questions coming in, guys, in the chat that I can't even see. We'll get to some more of those at the end. Let me tell you about using a strip box. Okay, now you feel really good with natural light. You're doing well with the bounce light. This is one more kind of lighting that I just want to show you because it is so effective at taking your art to the next level, and it's really not that hard. So a strip box is just a thing that you can buy to put on the front of the light. It's called a modifier. Every studio light company sells modifiers that fit their lights. Okay, they're not interchangeable. Like if you buy a strip box from one company, it may not fit on the front of a light of another one, but a strip box, every company sells strip box. And what it is it's like this little soft box that you can put onto the front of the light. But instead of being a big like square or octagon softbox, it's going to be real narrow. So it's going to be, mine here is like only 12 inches wide. I think it's 24 by 12. And what you can do with the strip box is you can light just a piece of someone's body to give a little bit of that dark mystery, to make it seem a little bit otherworldly in a way. Okay. I love to use these for boudoir because it allows you to create kind of like a bodyscape. It allows you, so like on the right here, do you see how I've lit just the pearls down her back and the curve of her bum, but you can't see anything else. The rest fades into darkness, right? On the left, I've lit part of her face, but then a lot of it's in darkness. So what I love about the strip box is it gives that sensual, deep lighting that A, looks great for boudoir, and B, looks so different from bounced light and natural light. Okay, so when I shoot, I'm going for a lot of variety and creating different looks for my clients so that they want to buy all their pictures. I have found in particular that using a strip box for lighting creates art that people want to buy and put on their walls. It looks artistic. It can be a little bit anonymous, like this one on the right here. There's no face, right? But it feels like something that you might want to have on your wall as a piece of artwork. Okay, so let me tell you about strip box light. Let me go back really quick here just to show you. This is me shooting with the strip box. This is me standing here putting this on. And then here, this bounce light is sitting here doing nothing. It's turned off. I should have taken it off before I took the picture. But the strip box is here. And this folded up brown blanket, this is me practicing lighting. This is my #1 lighting practice tip for you. Don't do it with a human. Humans are hard to deal with. So when you want to practice your bounce light or your strip box light or even your natural light, get a little brown blanket or a pink blanket or something that resembles human skin tone, roll it up, put it on the bed. In this case, I've even put a pair of pearls down the back of this blanket so that I can practice my lighting. This blanket's not going to talk back. This blanket's not going to get tired. This blanket's going to let me practice as much as I want to. So that would be my number one tip for you for practicing lighting. Get a pink sheet, a white sheet, a tan sheet, a blanket, anything like that. Roll it up, pretend it's a human, and practice your lighting before you ever practice it on a person. Of course, you're going to want to practice on a person eventually, but get really good with the blanket first, okay? So in this case, I'm sitting right here. The strip box is back here. This strip box light is coming. And what the strip box does is focus the light so that only that one beam of light comes and hits the back of this blanket person here and lights this up. It's not shooting straight at the lens. Do you see that? And it's not coming straight at the person, but the angle is creating that. And that is exactly how I created this image right here. This client right here is lying down in exactly the same place as that blanket was with the strip box and the camera. Okay. Settings for strip box. I shoot again at 1/125. That is my favorite shutter speed for boudoir. That's what I use every time. I'm bumping way down to an f13 so that I get that dark look. Also with the bodyscapes, I like it all to be in focus. I like that crisp line of the body and the pearls, okay? ISO at 200 and my light still at half power. But you have to remember it's going to be darker, number one, because I have a client on the black bed. Number two, because the strip box is just doing that narrow piece of light. And number three, because I'm at f13. Wow, we got to the question slide already. So let me just say about strip box. I have found that a lot of photographers who get into boudoir are intimidated by studio light and especially intimidated by trying to do dark and moody things. This is not that hard, but it will absolutely set you apart from your competition. If you can create this bodyscape look, all you need is that light you've already got that you're using for bounce light. You just got to buy that strip box. It's $100, not that big a deal, maybe $200. You will set yourself apart in terms of artistry, the variety of images you can create, and set yourself apart from a boudoir photographer who can shoot at night. Doesn't matter if the sun is shining or not, and create beautiful artistic images that people want to buy and love for years to come. All right, I'm seeing some questions at the end. Michael, that looks like a standard reflector and not a beauty dish. You are right. This is just, I'm sorry, I called that. This right here that comes on a light, that's just your standard reflector. It kind of looks like a beauty dish. You are correct. I misspoke. This is just you can just use this to bounce. It's what comes typically on most lights, and you don't have to buy anything special to use bounce light. Tom asks me if I meter my light. Here's the thing. I don't. In the sense that I work in a studio and I have shot with the same light so many times that I really don't have to meter anymore. If I'm looking at my studio and I see that it's a cloudy day, I just know to bump my ISO up a little bit. If it's a super sunny day, I know that I can keep the ISO low. So in my circumstances, I have shot in this studio. I've shot almost 2,000 clients in the same studio. So I'm just really familiar with the settings that I need. I know if I put my settings if my light at half power and bounce it off the ceiling, it'll look a certain way. So I don't have to meter. Do use my in-camera meter sometimes where I look in the viewfinder and see the in-camera light meter for daylight. But other than that, I don't use a separate light meter. Gregory literally just messed up his last shoot with those black bars. Yeah, if you're getting the black bars on your images, it means that your shutter speed is too fast for your studio lights. Jenny asked if these are unedited images. They are. So I purposely picked some unedited images to show you so that you would know that this was not done in post. So the images I have showed you are unedited. Now, of course, do I offer editing to my clients? Absolutely, I do. But one thing I want you to know is that this strip box, these are how the pictures look straight out of camera. This is not done in post. So I'm showing you unedited images on purpose to let you know that this is done with the strip box with lighting, so you don't have to use fancy Photoshop to get there. Now, of course, if the client comes back to me and they want something smoothed out, if they want acne removed or anything, I do all of that. But the essential look is created here just with the lighting. Andy asks, it seems that most cameras have a high-speed sync setting, very useful, and I always have it set. Great, yeah, if your lights and your camera are talking to each other and you can do a high sync, great. I don't personally need a high-speed sync setting to shoot boudoir because My clients don't move around a lot. I mean, boudoir is just not a high movement. I mean, I suppose there is a situation in which you could shoot a boudoir client like flipping their hair around or dancing or something, but that's just not typically how I work. Anita asks, LEDs aren't as powerful. Would bouncing work with those too? I don't think so. You would need to test, but I don't think LED light works the same. I don't think it will bounce the same, but do some research and let me know. I don't use LED studio lights. Okay, great. Other questions coming so far. Okay, Heidi asked me, is that a golden strip box instead of silver? No. Okay, so the reason why when you see this, see how she's looking, I think this is what you're asking, Heidi. Let me know if I'm not, but she's asking like, is this strip box gold inside instead of silver? Because she's looking at it here and it looks kind of yellow here. And the answer is no. So strip boxes, when you buy them, if you peek inside that grid, you're going to see silver reflective, like fabric kind of inside to bounce the light inside of the strip box. The reason why this one is, and mine is like that too, it is silver inside. The reason why this one is looking yellow in this picture is because I have the modeling light turned on. So a modeling light is like a light bulb that you can turn on with your studio lights. It's not so like studio lights have 2 light bulbs in them for the most part. So see this is just like a regular light bulb. It's called a modeling light and you can just turn it on kind of like a lamp. But then this round thing right here, that's called the flash tube. And that's what actually flashes when you press your shutter. So this modeling light can be helpful if you are in a dark situation and you want to have just like a light on. But if you are in a studio like mine where there's some daylight most of the time, whatever, I never really need that studio light or that modeling light on. Okay, Samantha asks, I thought the bounce light you spoke of at the beginning were constant lights, not triggered by the camera, but then you spoke about adding them. Sorry, no, this bounce light is not a constant light. This is a flash. This is, so this light will only trigger when so I have my DSLR and then I have a trigger on the top that talks to this camera. And when I press the shutter, it will fire. But otherwise, I mean, if I have the modeling light on, then it will be on all the time. But that's not really doing anything. That's like if I had like a little lamp on the bedside. What you really need is a flash to bounce the light. And yes, I do have a remote on my camera that talks to the lights. There's all kinds of lights out there that you can buy. These are cheap Einstein lights that are like $250. You can buy lights $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 that have all kinds of wireless capabilities. And I'm still a little bit old school here, and mine have like this wire thing at the back. Maybe someday I'll upgrade. Constant lights, if you're going to use constant lights, those are going to behave more like daylight. Okay. Constant lights are trying to be more like the sun. Like the sun shines in the window all the time, right? It doesn't just flash on and off, right? The sun comes in. So that's going to be more like a constant light. When you bounce, you're going to use a flash that just goes off when you press the shutter. Okay. So I think what might be helpful for a lot of you is I do have here, I have created a mini course of videos of me doing all of this lighting. It can be hard to explain how to do this, just me sitting here. So I wanted to show you exactly how I did it. So what I've done here is I've created 5 videos of for you of me creating my 5 top selling images. And in there, you'll see a variety of lighting techniques. And what you'll see in there is me working with a real client, and you'll see where I've placed my lights and exactly how I've created the images. And this is just a free resource that I thought would be helpful for you. You can go to my website, which is milliondollar.studio/mini course to download it. Or if you're in a place where you can hold up your phone to this QR code, it will take you right to it. Just be asked to enter your information so that I can email the course to you. And I would happy for you to watch those videos to understand a little bit more of what you're talking about. A couple more questions coming in. Allison asks, what are my favorite strobes to use? I'm a little bit of a cheap girl, and I'm a little bit of a budget girl, I guess what I'm saying. Einstein lights, I have found, they are the least expensive studio lights out there that still get the job done. There are a lot of companies out there, a lot of people doing better things, I'm sure. Well, I guess have more bells and whistles. But these Einstein Alien Bee lights are simple and cheap. And you know what? They work great. I have had the same 2 Alien Bee lights in my studio for 5 years and they are still going strong. So these are my favorites. The downside, these particular ones are not wireless, so they always have to be plugged in. Although with wireless lights, you have to charge them. We're already charging everything in our lives, right? So if you want to charge your lights too, there'd be that. Like I said, just be careful. You can't mix and match with a lot of brands. So if you buy a strip box, make sure it matches the light you buy, etc., because the fittings aren't interchangeable between companies. Tamel asks, do you have a posing education package? I do. Yep. So if you go to milliondollar.studio, I have a couple of different options for you. I'd love to chat with you more about that, of ways to learn how to break into boudoir or to grow your existing boudoir studio that includes business and posing education. Teresa asks, I would love to know your thoughts on constant lights being bounced. Okay, so you can't, I don't think that really works. I mean, if you had a very, very, very bright, very strong constant light, you could probably get some bounce out of it, but it's not going to, I mean, you could bounce in the sense that like the sun, you can bounce off of you can use a reflector to kind of like bounce the light and stuff, but you're not going to get the same effect that you are with a flash. From Carl, do we have to bounce off white walls or can it be any color? Great question. So if you bounce off a white wall, a white ceiling, or a white curtain, you're going to get kind of the cleanest bounce light. If it is a gray wall, you're still going to get pretty clean, like not a color cast, but it will just take more power to bounce off the wall. If you bounce off a pink wall or a pink curtain, your subjects are going to look slightly pink. It's going to give you a color cast of pink. Now, I have seen some photographers do this, and they do it on purpose. Like they bounce off of a slightly yellow wall to warm up their images or something like that. In my case, as you can see here, it's kind of hard to see, but I do have this wall is actually pretty white. These walls are light gray. If I bounce off this wall or this light gray, I essentially get no color cast. I just might have to turn up my light a little bit on the gray, because you have to remember, imagine you bounce a light off of a black curtain or a black wall. When that light hits the black curtain, it's going to be absorbed by the black, and very little of it is going to bounce back at you. So you're going to have a little bit of, if you have a gray wall or a gray door or something, it's going to absorb some of the light when it bounces back. If it's a neutral gray, you're not going to have a color cast, but like you should, if you're interested in this, try this. Like if you get like a green piece of paper and hold it up to your face, I wish I had one like right here. I don't, but like if you hold a green piece of paper close to your face, you will see a slight green color cast onto your skin. And that's the same thing that will happen if you bounce against a colored wall or colored curtains or something. So if it's a really pale gray, pale pink, pale green or something, you might not notice it that much. But for sure, any kind of bright color, you're going to start to notice it big time. Okay. What is your studio ceiling height? My studio ceiling height, I believe they are 9 or 10 feet. It's not super high. My studio is a 412 square foot room that includes the bathroom. And it's pretty small, but I make good use of the space. So for example, you can see I have a white bed here and a black bed here. So I shoot dark and moody stuff here and light and bright stuff here. So this black bed right here is where I do all of this kind of pictures. And then this white bed right here that I'm sitting on, all I've done is turned around, and that's where I get these pictures that are on the white bed. So in a small space, I do get a lot of variety. Would I love to shoot in a castle in 17 different rooms that had bathtubs and staircases and chimneys and fireplaces and do a fabulous boudoir? Yes, I would. Real estate in Chicago is expensive, and I am happy in my small little space. I personally only ever have one person in my studio at a time, one boudoir client at a time. So I work in a small space and it works for me. I'm not shooting families or big groups, so I don't need a huge space. You don't need tall ceilings for bouncing light. You can bounce a light in an 8-foot ceiling just as well as you can in a 12-foot ceiling. So in fact, with a 12-foot ceiling, you have to realize the light has to go further before it can bounce back down. So you might have to turn your light up. So don't feel at all like your ceiling height is inhibiting your ability to use bounce light. Okay, Alexis, great question. She asked, when you shoot pics with a strip box, like the pic with the pearls, do you turn out all the other lights in the studio? Okay, this is a great question. So you might think that you have to do that, but you don't. So when you see how I'm sitting in this room and the overhead lights are on enough that you can see me lit up here, I took that picture just like this with the overhead lights on and the windows still coming in, because with your settings at f13 and the ISO the way it is and the strip box the way it is, the camera's only picking up this light right here. And truly, the window light and the overhead light is irrelevant. You can test this by sitting in front of your blanket or your person and taking a picture with the strip box off and seeing what you get, and then turning the strip box on and seeing what you get. What you get with the strip box off, that's telling you what the windows or overhead lights are doing to your image. And if you get a completely black screen, you know they're doing nothing. You know it's not affecting your shot at all. If you take it and you're seeing anything at all, it means that your settings are picking up the window light or the overhead light. So when I'm shooting these dark and moody pictures, my studio actually looks like this. Lights on, window open. You know, I'm not having to shoot in a black room. This is one thing I have learned. A lot of people think, oh, I got to black out the windows. I got to paint the walls black so I can get this dark look. You don't. You just got to change your camera settings and your light settings. So I have my overhead lights on the whole time I'm shooting, and it doesn't affect here or here because the strobes and the camera settings override that. And again, you can always check that by taking a picture with your camera with the light on and with the light off. I hope that answered your question. Okay, Rhonda, where is the strip box in relation to her body, at the head or at her side? So this picture right here, for example, that I keep referencing, this picture right here, the setup is this. Imagine this is a person though, instead of a blanket. I'm here, strip box here. And the way you learn how to use the strip box is you have to imagine the light coming out of the strip box, just how it is. So see how this angle is like this? That strip box light is coming just like that. Like if I could draw a line, you can see the light coming and just hitting, and just hitting the pearls right there. And then I'm shooting like this just to get the top of her back. Okay. And you can imagine it's the same for these other gals. That's the lighting is in the same place. She's just flipped over onto her back. Lighting is the same place here. She's just sitting at the bed instead of lying on her back. Same here. Does that make sense? Okay, Samantha, can you link the Einstein Lights model, please? I can find that after. I can't do that right this second with the screen share, but it's called an Einstein Alien B series, and I can look for that for you for sure. Okay, have I answered most of your questions? I do want you to know this. I am an open book, and I would be happy. I read every email and DM that I get, and I would love to stay in touch. So if you have other questions that I didn't get to or you'd love to chat, you can find me at milliondollar.studio. I'm easy to find on Facebook and all the socials under that name. Feel free to shoot me any questions or comments that you have after this, especially if I didn't get to your question.
Liz, as always, we are so thankful for you. I don't know anything about lighting, and I learned so much today. Thank you. I feel like this can be applied to all different types of studio work. So we appreciate your time, and we hope that you will come back again. We will just keep having you over and over.
Are there questions or comments that I didn't see that you can see on your end there?
I did. Oh gosh, I was kind of deleting them as you were answering them. Okay. Jenny asked about your aperture. Is there any like go-to aperture, or is it like a creative personal preference?
Aperture is also always a creative personal preference. For me, when I do bodyscapes, I really do f13 or higher. So f13, f14, something like that. Because with the bodyscapes in particular, for me, I prefer this to be all in focus. And I like that crisp bodyscape look. Now, when I'm shooting at the window, I'm going to go more down, the 4.5, the 5.6. Here you can see in this example, for example, see how her eye is in focus, but then the wings have faded into blurriness in the back. That means I'm shooting at something more like 2.8, 4.5, something like that here, that with the window light. I would not try to blur out personally with the strip box just because that's not the look I love. But hey, You try it, send me the pictures, and I'd love to take a look at what you're doing. So for me personally, if I'm doing light and airy or window or something like that, I'm shooting more in the 2.8 to 5.6 range. And if I'm trying to do that more like crisp bodyscape look, then I'm more at the f13, f14. I will say this, every aperture and every camera setting has its place. There's no right or wrong. When I first started, I feel like there were people out there telling me like, you can never shoot at this because it's wrong. It's not. Everything can look beautiful and be artistic depending on how you use it. So play around, send me your pictures. I'd love to see what you're doing.
Awesome. Some of the other questions are kind of not really lighting related. I don't know if you want to cover like a few of them just to kind of.
Yeah, I've got some time. If people want to ask questions, I'd be happy to.
We'll answer a few more. We don't want to run past an hour, and everybody's time is precious. So how long do your sessions usually last?
Okay, I have a hard and fast 60-minute shooting rule, and I'll tell you why. We did not talk about this at all today, but I use something called a same-day sales method at my studio. That means people come to my studio, they're in hair and makeup 60 minutes, a photo shoot 60 minutes, and then we have a 60-minute reveal and purchase session. So people are in my studio 3, sometimes 4 hours max. And I do this on purpose because I have found that it increases my sales and client satisfaction. So I know sometimes it's fun when you have someone in the studio to shoot them for 2, 3, 4 hours and you get excited. But I have a strict 60-minute limit for myself to get the pictures that I need for each client in that short amount of time. I shoot every client in 3 outfits and each outfit on 2 sets. So I know I'm doing 6 sets. 6 sets means 10 minutes on each set, 60 minutes. So I'm doing 10 minutes, 6 sets each for a 60-minute shoot.
Awesome. Can you go back to the QR code slide just so people can see what that is? Awesome. Somebody's asking. And then do you ever travel to their homes or different locations, or you just stick to your studio?
Great question. So I rent a commercial studio in my area and I have it set up just how I like it. And so I typically shoot at my studio. So day to day, I shoot about 20 clients per month. I'm at my studio. However, a couple of times a year, I do a special thing where I rent out a different studio in Chicago to get new looks. And I advertise it as a special experience. Yeah. And Chicago is a great city. There are all kinds of artist lofts and places to shoot. And so once or twice a year, I rent one of those out to get a different look. Personally, I don't go to clients' homes. Boudoir is, I will say this, you want to be careful about safety and privacy. And I personally don't want to show up at a stranger's home where I'm not sure what's going down. At my commercial studio, I know what's happening and I am in control of the situation. So personally, I don't do that. However, I don't want to scare you. People do it. Just make sure you're safe and you have contracts and you're very explicit in your expectations. If people want to work with me, they're either working with me at my commercial studio or at a place that I've rented specifically for boudoir. There are boudoir photographers who go out to waterfalls and are shooting people on top of mountaintops and doing all kinds of things. So you do you. Chicago is not great for the outdoors. I will tell you, we don't have a lot of up here. So, and it's cold all the time. So outdoor boudoir also has not been really my thing just because of where I live. But man, if I lived in Hawaii, I tell you, I'd be doing outdoor boudoir every day of the year.
Awesome. Somebody was asking about albums. Is there a vendor that you specifically work with that you trust and keeps things private and does really good work?
Really good question. So boudoir albums is my #1 selling thing. Most people who come to work with me want to purchase an album. There are a lot of professional labs out there, and all of the professional labs, I will tell you, are going to be, have privacy and all that kind of thing. So White House, Bay, Miller's, there is a specific, they're all going to, you don't have to worry about privacy with any of those big names. There is a company specifically called the Boudoir Album that has an all-female staff where you can promise your clients that only women will be seeing the images. I actually have only used them a few times. They're not my main vendor, but if that is something that's really important to you or important to your clients, I would recommend looking into them. They're based out of Canada.
Awesome. And then I think this will be the final one. There's so many. Do you use props and clothes for your clients to wear, or do they bring their own?
Great question. I recommend to my clients that they bring at least something that they want to wear. And then I have a lot of things that I can add on. at my studio. So for example, I'm not a boudoir photographer that has a full lingerie closet with every bra in every size and panties that I wash and that kind of thing. So, but what I do have are robes, pearls, shoes, earrings, angel wings, wraps, fabrics that I can add on. If a client shows up with nothing, which rarely happens, but if they did, I do the whole photo shoot with rose petals and sheets, right? Like this is boudoir, right? We don't need a lot of clothes. But for the most part, my clients are going and buying some special outfits. This is a big deal. They want to look great. They're buying things that fit them. There are photographers out there who stock full client closets. To me, this always felt really hard to have every size at all time, and also to keep up. Like there's trends and things people want the latest thing. So if you are going to go the client closet route, be aware that you really need to be size inclusive. You never want to have someone show up and you don't have their size. So have all the sizes, and also be very careful, of course, with hygiene, and try to stay up with, certain colors come in and out of seasons and things like that. So the way I run to, clients bring their own bras and panties and intimate wear, and then I add on with things that are one size fits all or that are easy to wash, like the robes, the wraps, the wings, things like that.
Sounds good. Love it. Thank you so much. You guys, I dropped a link to our help center. There's 2 other webinars in there from Liz that she did previously, posing and then marketing. So check those out. Again, thank you so much. These are always so packed full of information. Again, reach out to Liz if you have any more questions, and head over and download the mini course.
I do think that will answer a lot of your questions about light placement, because you can see in the video more where I'm standing in relationship to the lights, which is hard to see on a 2D slide here. I think those videos will help you see that more if you're interested in more information on light placement.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us. So fun. All right. We'll see you next time. Bye everyone.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Takes a minute to end.